One of the things that the ILP's also done is there's a startup working out of fish burners in Sydney where they've created a thing called Reco Hubs, or in the organization called Recomazing. And Reco stands for recommendation. Recommendation. And so a Reco Hub is a hub where people can recommend things. And so on my urging, the ILP has in fact joined one or created one, and we're just launching it tonight. The Creativity Exchange Network has one, and you're welcome to join that as well. But basically what it is that people come into this process, you have a short profile, very little thing, and what you do is you recommend to anything you want to recommend. So it could be a book, it could be a conference, it could be software, it could be a business, it could be any number of things that you say, this is something that helped me be successful, helped me build my business, that I really think is a terrific thing. Once it's in there, of course, you can go ahead then and add to other people's recommendations. And the idea behind it is if we have our 1,500 members of the ILP, which we have now, and somebody wants to know, hey, what kind of CRM should I use? Or what's the best thing for online development? Go into the Reco Hub and look at this. 15 people have done this, or 150 people have recommended this one, and you can do that. So you can actually build your business, get your profile put up there, see the recommendations from each other. The other thing you can also do is, does anybody know anybody? So if you're not finding a recommendation, request one. And so I just had recently one where somebody had come and said, does anybody know a great WordPress designer for me? So I put Troy up there, over in there, who's our designer, and I think he's pretty good. So I put him in as a recommendation. Other people might use him, and they would recommend him. So the idea behind this is it's a way of sharing information in a very simple way, but it also gets you to raise your own profile, because you can get people recommending your business. And I think with social media, and this is all part of social media, I don't know about the rest of you, but now when I'm talking to clients and other people I want to say, so just have a look at me on LinkedIn. Have a look at the recommendations that people give you. Anything you can do to build your profile, I think, is going to be good for people in the L&D space. And organizers, anybody know any great venues that I could use in Melbourne? I want a funky venue in North Sydney. Does anybody know one? You could put the request, somebody suggests it. So it can be anything at all. So urge you to grab a sheet on that and get in there and enjoy and join up and have a good look at the ILP as well.
Is that free, Bill, for them to join up?
No, there's no cost to any of this stuff. There's no cost to anything at all. All you do is you create your profile and go ahead and put some recommendations. And you don't have to you can just look through the ones that are already there. Say, yeah, I use WordPress, or I use this. Recommend. And it builds it up. It came out of an idea where Fishburners had 250 startups in the business, and people are constantly asking the experts for advice. So they said, well, let's just capture your advice, and then that people aren't spending all the time asking all the time, hunting around for information. It was that kind of thing. We supported it because it's a startup, and the young people that are doing it are terrific, and so I like to support it.
So it'd be good to get a show in the room. Who's in business here on their own? Good. So there you are.
And how many people work inside organizations in the L&D space? Excellent. Okay, so that's good. So again, what we're trying to do is encourage people, because right now the ILP is about 70% providers and about 30% people in businesses in the L&D space. What we want to try to do is even that up as much as we can, because it's about creating a better L&D space in Australia. So that's just something that's on involved. The other thing I will mention to you just briefly, this is more of a plug for me, I have a network called the Creativity Exchange Network. It's on our website. It's something, if you just Google it, you'll find it. We have a session coming up on the 27th here, and I've got Janet's going to be Janet in the back of the room. My great friend Janet is speaking, and she's going to be sharing some lessons from Israeli startup innovative startups. So it's going to be a great evening, and then we have other ones that go on. That's another network, not dissimilar to ILP, but they're very similar in many ways, all focused on creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship. So if you're in that space at all, then join it up. And if anybody knows any other great networks, they're on recommendation with the Reco Hub, and recommend them. Because that's what it's for. Networks are like that. So on that note, I'm gonna finish. I think we've had a great evening. Is there any last questions or comments that anybody has?
Was it worth it, guys? Was it okay? Did you get something?
Very good, excellent. Come back to these and come back to the Ken meetings. This is the way we build networks and the way we actually learn from each other, and that's really what it's all about. And this space is a space that we like to use, but the other thing we're going to be trying to do with some of these events is take them on the road a little bit. So if you happen to have a space, a business, things like that, I know I'm talking to some of my clients, hey, that are doing some really innovative things. Hey, why don't you host one of these things? You know, this is just a space we happen to be able to use right now, but we can go anywhere on the road, and that's part of what we want to do. So if anybody's got any ideas on that, come and talk to us. In the meantime, once again, Con, thank you very much
for coming, guys.
coming along, guys. Thank you for attending. No one goes home until the food is all done. It's okay if you leave the wine, though.
That's for you and Jen to finish off.
All right, guys. Con, I don't know how long ago we met. It wouldn't have been all that long ago, but
it's within probably a year,
probably the last year. And I guess we keep bumping into these kind of events and things like that, which is part of that whole social networking that we all do. Mm-hmm. Tonight we want to talk about this social media strategies. And when I looked at what Con was doing and where he was coming from, you sit back and you have about 1,400 LinkedIn connections, something like that.
But
4,200.
4,241.
Yeah.
Who's counting?
But who's counting? Twitter.
Yeah. But there's a lot of effort put into that.
38,000 tweets. And
since 2009.
Yeah. You're giving away your age now. But, I mean, so this is a guy who's been involved in social media for a long time, and those are just a few of the things I know. So what I want to do is I want to basically sit back and say, this is a guy who's been involved for quite a long time, been learning some stuff, doing some things, and I guess builds the strategies around that. So what we want to do is have that conversation.
For sure.
So, Con, that's my introduction, but tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, what got you started, how did you get into all of this?
Well, look, funny thing is, like a lot of us we probably accidentally fall into these things. My background is an accountant. So I graduated with a Bachelor of Economics with Accounting, worked for the place called the Tax Office for 30 odd years, but the best thing about that was I was able to diversify. So I did the investigations and the audits, and then I thought, nah, this is not for me. So I took a change in career. Got into L&D, and I was director of L&D for the last 15 years of my days there, which was good. It was a great experience. 26,000 people trying to manage the learning for an organisation that big. You can imagine the challenges and the obstacles and the hurdles we had to overcome on a regular basis. Since that, and while I was there, I started getting into social media and started getting into the social learning side of things, and I started to enjoy it. And I'll talk a bit about this too. My whole world just opened up. For me, social media just sort of was one of these eye-openers that just changed my whole way of thinking, changed my whole way of doing things, and just changed everything about what I was doing and how I was doing it. And I was and I implemented some of these things in the organisation, but being a public service organisation, firewall restrictions, other things like that, it was very hard to get a lot of things done. For example, we couldn't even get YouTube. But now all those things have altered, of course. Things have moved on. So I set up little wiki forums, I set up little conversation forums where you had a SAP LMS system, so I embedded discussion forums, collaboration forums. So I started getting all that sort of social learning things happening. And then I got out of that organisation. I started consulting for a number of years and got into social learning as a consultancy business, and I did a few sessions and implementation with certain organisations around embedding social learning in the organisation, about the obstacles, the challenges that to overcome, the cultural issues. And then more recently I joined Kineo Asia Pacific, which is an e-learning company. We're doing some solutions consulting with them. So I get to still do the stuff that I enjoy, but it's also focusing on e-learning and platforms. And I'm here, I suppose, out of the gracious of their heart. They allowed me to come here tonight, and what I mean by that is because I'm committed to them in relation to things I do, but also I love social learning. I love social media. So that's a bit about me, Bill, and my background.
A learning professional who's come into the social media side of things and made it start to work. And what's interesting about social media, Con, is that a lot of people have different views of what it actually is. Mm. So in your term, what is social media? What does it mean, and what's the breadth or depth of it? So we can understand what we're talking about.
For me, social media, like I said before, opened up a lot of opportunities, and for me, it takes away that connection from being and the analogy I use, and I saw it somewhere, was about you go away from that first meeting being a handshake to a hug. For me, social media just made that available. a classic example I had for me, what social media did for me was I was on a plane and I was coming back to Melbourne and we were taxiing to the runway and the pilot says, you know, the seatbelt's off, you can actually turn on your phones now and start calling your cab driver, call home, whatever. So first thing I do, and I do this within 10 seconds of when I wake up too, I access my Twitter feed. Always. So the first thing, I saw a stat the other day, it said 1 in 5 Australians access their phones within the first minute of waking up. I wrote back and I said, "What takes them so long?" Because so I started accessing my Twitter feed on the plane. I'm getting my bag and there's this guy next to me. He's looking over the shoulder. And I'm thinking to myself, "What a sticky beak!" You know? I thought, and he's looking over. He's bending the neck to see, and he actually goes up, comes and taps me on the shoulder. And goes, "You're not Looncoach, are you?" Looncoach is my Twitter handle. I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Mate, I've been following you for the last year." I'm just amazed. This some stranger who's actually looking at me, looking at my Twitter feed. He's recognised my profile pic, and he goes, I said, "Who are you?" And he goes, so I won't mention his name. I go, "Yeah, I remember you. I remember we connected about a year ago." He goes, "Yeah, that's right." Yeah, he goes, "Oh, yeah, I see you all the time. You're very active." So for me, what that gave me was a realisation that there's people out there who are keen to connect and keen to learn from each other. The other thing what social media did for me, Bill, and also why it's important, is it gave me an opportunity to connect with people that I would never in the faintest thought I would connect with. People like Charles Jennings, people like Don Taylor, Nigel Payne, Alec Macy, one of the gurus in the learning space. If you know anything about learning, you know Alec Macy. To be able to connect and interact with them and share and be able to say, great article, Alec, what are you thinking? And to be able to communicate with people of that ilk, it just opens up your whole world, and that's something you'll never have the opportunity to do if you didn't have the social media.
Yeah, I think I'm finding exactly the same thing, and I think others probably do as well. I know just today I created or a couple of days ago, I created a new LinkedIn group for one of the networks that we operate, and within 6 hours I had 70 people part of that group, and I'd only invited 100, so it was that kind of process. But now I'm finding other people from around the world are coming into it, and MySpace is the creative thinking area, and one of the big names in that area is a fellow named Michael McCulco, who I've had a lot of regard for over the years. Suddenly he asked to join, was in there, and submitted something for us to consider and look at. And so that's that part of that process of connecting with people. Right. And you want to do that with people from all over the world.
And the thing I was going to say, there's a really good book. It's called Social Media Work by Tim Scott and Gemma Rowcroft, the UK. And they myth bust a lot of the Twitters, especially around Twitter. Things like it's only for the young generation. It's not. It's for all of us. Things like you only find out what people are having for breakfast. Well, it's not. Those type of things, yes, they are on social media, and we hear all about those things. But if you use strategies, you can actually filter those things out, and you don't have to hear that noise. You can minimise that noise, so you can get what you want out of that social media platform. So yes, you do have people saying what they're having for breakfast. Yes, I do tweet sometimes about football and sports, but if you actually want to filter those things out, you can filter those things out as you want and as you go along to be able to get and target the people you want to target.
So we might come back to that a little bit more about when we talk about strategies, about how we set it up, what medias we use, and the kind of filtering that can happen. That's a good way. But I use Twitter a lot, as you know, and it's always interesting because I have the tweet feeds that I put through to offer, say, a daily tip on creative thinking or whatever it happens to be. I have colleagues that tweet something through, but then every now and again you have to have some fun with it as well. So we were out with my daughter the other night, and we had some nice Belgian chocolates that we brought back. Well, you got to put that up because it's great. I also had recently with Valentine's Day, I got a nice gift from my wife over here. It was not a dozen roses, but a bag of flour.
Flower for us?
With flour, so no trouble getting a vase for it. That's all. But what happens is that
have fun with it.
I think what happens is that gives that connection to people. They know you're having fun. You're doing that kind of stuff. Let's throw to the audience. We're probably not going to be able to get too much on video, but I would like to throw to the audience a little bit if we could right now. What do other people think? When you think of social media, we've been talking about Twitter and LinkedIn, but what are other people's views of what is social media? Okay, let's not make
I'll throw something in there.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of snobbery around online versus so-called in real life. But online is just a form of interaction. In person is a form of interaction. It's all interaction.
Yeah.
So I think there's this notion that if it's online, it's either not real or it's frivolous. But when you use it for a purpose and in a business context, if that's how you want to use it, it's anything but social. It's social in the you're interacting, but not social as in it's frivolous and a waste of time.
Yeah.
I think of it as being like a networking institute. So I've met a lot of people that have known people, but then off that they've sort of expanded their social network or their social media network. So to me, it's like magnified who you know already.
Exactly.
And what kind of social media do people use to do some of that connection? Because there's different types of things.
Who's on Twitter? LinkedIn? Instagram? Okay. Facebook? Of course, we're all on Facebook. See? No one ever trained us on Facebook, did we? We all on Facebook. No one's ever done a training session on Facebook. It's interesting how we all just picked it up and just did it. That's an interesting fact about Facebook.
But there's other things as well that I think fit into the social media category. For me, things like Meetup is a social media strategy, and that gets you to go along to the connected thing where you're actually networking with other people, things like that.
We talked about Pete's stream with Peter, who was a media man. He does Periscopes every morning, 8 o'clock. Periscope's another platform that people use to connect. Magnificent platform, a great platform, and now integrated with Twitter itself. So you can actually go on Twitter and go live, and Periscope goes live with you. So another platform to utilise, where you want to do that sort of video. I mean, I like Periscope, and I've done Periscope. I think it's a good opportunity where you go to a conference, and there's other people that you know, colleagues who couldn't come to the conference with you, and there's a keynote speaker. I'll just get up to this Periscope, maybe 5-10 minutes to give them an opportunity to watch what I'm watching and get them to be part of that sort of process, and then come back and debrief with them some of the stuff that I saw and show that video again as part of that debrief. So Periscope is really good for that sort of stuff. I know conference organisers don't like it much, but you know what, these days, who cares? Just do it.
Exactly. Well, how many concerts have been Periscoped?
Sandy?
Well, two questions. I'm just thinking about the IP and everything. When you do that, do you ask the speaker or ask the conference organiser? No, looks like you don't, Con.
No, I don't. So
you just do it.
I don't think everyone else does it. They'll just do it,
Yeah.
And did you say, the second question, did you say it can be connected to Twitter?
Yeah. So you go to Twitter, you go a new tweet.
Yeah.
Options that come up is live. Go live now. You click on that.
And that's what kicks in Periscope?
Yeah, it kicks in Periscope. So you don't have to activate Periscope separately now. You go directly from it's integrated with Twitter, because Twitter bought out Periscope. So
And there's a couple little things. I mean, sorry.
yeah, it's also a free app too. Yeah, it's a standalone app, but it's also integrated to Twitter itself. So you can do it two ways.
And it's about knowing how to use these things. I mean, I've done a couple of Periscope streams as well. The last IOP meeting we actually streamed some of it as well. But what I found is that the video quality of the copied quality was very poor, and you've got to have the phone set up exactly the right way. It's not, because it's still in early.
So I'm just going to say some of the things that the beauty of social media is to build a professional network, and that's what I'll use it for. I really don't care what Britney Spears is having for breakfast. I really care about the network, and we call that in the you'll hear that as PLN, a personal learning network. For me, I build up a personal network. For me, guys, I don't Google much these days. I go to Twitter. If I've got something to ask, or need some help or assistance, and Michael and those guys will know me on Twitter, I just go to Twitter and say, look, I'm working on this. And via Twitter too, you can actually create some small private groups. There's this one lady in the UK called Christine Gadd who's got what they call a creativity flash mob group, which is a private group on Twitter. So people go on there and say, I'm developing a new leadership program, looking for some advice on. So there'll be about 10 maybe replies come through within a minute. You scan through them. And I had one myself when I put up an issue, and within an hour I had a Skype meeting with a lady in the UK discussing a leadership program that we were designing. So you can target it, you can find out different ways of using it.
Just with that, do you have to, how do you keep track of that? Because what I find, this stuff comes through so fast from so many things. How do you actually keep track and spot those things before they're gone off the page?
There's a couple of things you can do. You can either we'll talk about hashtagging. So you can go and search for hashtags. So if you're interested in HR strategy, your hashtag HR strategy, you can find what's been the latest on that.
Right.
Or the other thing I do is develop lists. So I'll have my L&D gurus as a list. I'll have HR tweeters. I'll have people that I know they're going to a conference. I'll put them in a conference list, and so just monitor that list that the conference is on. So you take that individual's profile, you add them to a list, you create a list, and you have that list, and say in the morning I get up, I'll usually scan my Twitter feed, just give it a quick scan, but then I go to my lists and look at the people that I follow, like the Charles Jennings, the Don Taylors, the certain people that I follow on a
These lists
regular
are in
basis.
Twitter?
Yeah, but I have a list, but I don't see their tweets. I don't see Trump tweets. I don't see this tweets. I'll just see the people that I'm following. So you don't see all the other feeds.
Good.
Social learning, of course, why you use it, social learning, I mean, we know about social learning, those people have been around. It can give you a lot of that sort of experience on around learning socially. You can become a guru. You can actually set yourself up to become a guru in your field. We've all got a special skill. Everyone in this room has got a special skill. Like someone said to me, everyone's got a book in them. Everyone's got a special skill. You can all share your knowledge. Actually set yourself up as the go-to person in your area, in your industry. By connecting, interacting, writing, blogging, sharing, you become that person. So when someone thinks, like Bill said, thinks social media, so Con's been doing it. When someone thinks HR strategy, I go to Michael. I know Michael does HR strategy. When someone thinks about entrepreneurs and business, I go to Sandy, because I know Sandy's in entrepreneurship, she's into business on her own. So you set yourself up as a guru and people regard you and go to you in that respect. But you need to put effort into that. You need to make that as a priority and you start tweeting and sharing that information. And it reflects well on your brand, your organisation and yourself. Brand, it's all about brand you these days. Organisations are keen to hear what people say about them. About a year ago, I visited the NAB Social Media Centre. If you haven't seen the NAB Social, it's an experience. It's about a room half the size of this, about 5 screens. There's 4 or 5 people there. I know, you've ever seen it? You've got to see it? Yeah. About 4 or 5 people there. All they do is they monitor the social media, Instagrams, Twitter, Facebook. As soon as they see issues come up, it's a personal banking issue, bang, off to personal banking. They've got a KPI to answer that question within an hour. Come back. They're monitoring. They don't monitor this much the emails as they monitor the social media feed because it's instant, it's in your face, and people are always reading it. And I've got to admit it. I've used it to my advantage too. I had issues with Optus, and Michael knows. I've had issues with Optus in the AFL today. I've used it, and I'm getting results. I'm getting results because they pay attention to social media. It's about their brand.
Just on that note, what kind of organizations use social media in what sort of ways? And the reason I'm thinking about it is I was speaking at a conference last year up in Queensland, and it was the Queensland Police are using social media all the time to keep people abreast of things, to look for information, to draw stuff up. And while we didn't get a full picture of it, it was just an interesting feel for there's an organization that you wouldn't really be thinking about, and yet they're very active and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on social media in order to stay.
And every Thursday to be quite humorous. They'd have a real twisted, humorous tweet or something they'll put up,
I look at the Vic Roads traffic. I get the updates about the accidents where they're happening, so I can see on the way home. I just scan to see if there's any accidents on my journey home to see what roads close and all that. So that's one way you can find out, what's happening. Emergency services use it a lot. I did a session with the New South Wales Rural Fire Service. They use it extensively about notifying people out in the bush and also notifying the other emergency services about things that are happening. From a corporate perspective, the banks are using it a lot. Banks, of course, we all know the banks are under the pump in relation to what they're doing. Banks use it quite a bit in relation to showcasing new products, but also responding to concerns that people might have. But look, it varies a lot. It varies a lot. There's also those active brands, the Cotton Ons, those sort of H&M brands. They use it a lot because that's their market.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about soon
and of
about
course politicians use it.
Exactly. And we'll talk soon about some of the strategies, what's important about the strategy. But why you use it, I think that's about the 4 key things you want to use it. So it depends really where you want to be. For me, if it comes down to me, it was about the building the professional network. I don't have to use that. The professional network, the learning, the guru. I think that just comes over a period of time. But the brand. But for me, it's the top 2 was why I started using social media a lot. I learnt a lot. I was able to access a number of blogs, a number of articles that I wasn't able to access before, but also it built my professional network.
So, tell us more about what a social media strategy is.
Okay, so the kind of components when you look at a social media strategy, there's about 10 components you need to. You can use these as your markers. First of all, there's a guy called Seth Godin who talks about the tribe. Find out where your tribe lives. Find out where your target market is. So we talked about the H&Ms. Their target market is that, female, 25 to 35 years old. They will target that market in a variety of ways. Via Facebook, they'll use their Twitter, or they might even use Instagram and things. Most important thing is to find your target market. Do some research, do some analysis, see where they live, see where they hang out, and then use the platforms that are suited for that particular area. The next thing I would do, content. Now, if you're learning, content is king. Content. You need to have content that attracts. Either you're writing a blog, either you're sharing someone else's content, either you're able to access some content that you have. Most important thing is content. People are looking for fresh ideas. So you need to be able to develop content and or share content. Any questions on the way, please stop me. Right. Make sure you're probably on more than one platform, because you can start off with one, but actually think about other platforms where you need to be on. So if you're going to be on a Twitter, think about LinkedIn as a professional networking. Then you might want to join a closed Facebook group that's particularly to your field. So think about more than one platform. Think about, if you're into that sort of space, which is about visual, get on Pinterest. Or get into Instagram. So there's other platforms there that, if you're into marketing, fashions, or you're into home decorating or something, those visual sort of mediums, you need to get on a Pinterest or an Instagram, those particular sort of areas. So look at the platforms that are available to you and tap into them, and actually make sure you're consistent on all those platforms.
What would you recommend for learning professionals like us? Because
professionals,
learning professionals, because obviously if you're marketing a product, that's one thing, but if you're marketing a service.
I think for me, I've seen most traction from Twitter and from LinkedIn and periscoping. Periscoping as in showcasing what I'm doing. I like periscoping, and I did this with Kerry and Jeff. Periscoping is good for when you're about to develop a new product, let's say a new leadership product. What I would use Periscope is I'd set my tripod up there in my little home office, and I'd Periscope and say, hey guys, I'm just developing my leadership program. These are the 4 or 5 key areas I'm going to focus on. Bang, 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 bang. This will be run out in January at the Mention Hub on the 15th of January. Tickets will be available soon, but just want to give you a bit of a sneak preview. Create the teaser, create the momentum, get them thinking. So then a couple of weeks later you say, I've just done a bit more work on my leadership program. The first thing we're going to cover is X, Y, and Z. I'm still planning out the next part of it, but look, hope you like what I'm doing. So you keep on. So I think periscoping is really good for that. And there's a guy called Chocolate Chip Johnny. He's in I don't know if you've heard of Chocolate Chip Johnny. Everyone, he does periscopes. Anyone heard of Chocolate Chip Johnny? No? Yeah, he does really good periscopes. So what Chocolate Chip Johnny goes, he's got a chocolate chip factory. So Johnny goes on periscopes every day with specials. He sells out within a minute. There's people that come from the UK and the USA, I think it's in Byron Bay, somewhere around there, that come down and actually go to Chocolate Chip Johnny's factory because they've seen him on Periscope. The guy is so big, he's just massive because of Periscope. His Periscopes, once I remember he went on, he said, guys, we did a bit of a run for a client, we did a couple of 100 extra biscuits, we just don't know what to do with them, we're selling them for half price. Within about, I think 20 seconds, 30 seconds, he had sold them. Just amazing, just goes on, does all that. So that's what video can do. And people that would know that I'm a real advocate for video. I think video is the way where you need to be. I think video is just so spontaneous. It's real, it's live. And live video for me is more important than the YouTube video. The YouTube video is good, but live is so spontaneous and so raw that I think people can associate with it a lot better. They sort of see you in your real perspective.
One of the strategies that I think Peter was telling me about with things like Periscope is you need to let people know that you're going to be periscoping.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So you send a message out to your Twitter feed and things like that a little bit beforehand.
It does.
And
it does well.
Then it starts and all that kind of stuff. So it's a case of knowing, not just doing one thing, but using the cross platforms
what Peter does
to draw people in.
Right, well, he does that, but what Peter does very well, and it takes a bit of effort. Everyone that comes on, he acknowledges them. That's an amazing. So he sees everyone that comes on. He says, "Hello, so and so. Hello, so and so. Hello, so and so." And he keeps talking until someone, "Oh no, hello, so and so. Welcome." So when people get acknowledged for being on a feed, of course they're going to say, "Hey, this guy, This guy's acknowledging me. They're going to feel part of. They're engaged.
Yeah. And it's amazing how quickly you can get people involved. Like I say, we set up
Yeah.
something here. I just had the
Sandy had a hand up, I
thing
think.
going, and suddenly we had 72 people live within 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah,
Amazing.
exactly.
Sandy?
Google Plus, is it worth bothering?
I'm honest, I don't use it much. I don't know, but others use Google Plus much?
Don't really use it much, but I'm no expert on SEO, but apparently it can be good if you have your, let's say, business or personal Google Plus account set up. You're more likely to come up in Google searches. So a lot of people use it even just for that kind of purpose.
That's why I use it as well.
Yep.
I use it for just that purpose. I have probably 1 in every 5 LinkedIn things I might also add to that, just to have that presence.
Yeah, have a profile, but
Yeah.
I don't use it much. I know others do. Having said that, LinkedIn gets a lot of SEO love too. So you focus on your LinkedIn profile, you get a bit of SEO love on Google results, on Google searches. So yeah. What else have we got? Let's see. Oops, sorry. Branding. Make sure your logos, your who you are is consistent across all your platforms. So if you've got a brand, a logo for yourself, make sure it's consistent. The colours are the same across every platform. Don't deviate from that, because then people will see you on a Periscope, they might see you on a LinkedIn, they might see you on a Twitter. They need to recognise who you are across the board. That's why with me, I've kept my photo on Facebook, my photo on Twitter, and my photo on LinkedIn, apart from the background, is all the same. So it's very much a recognisable. And if I do change it, I'll change it across all threads. That way people know that's Con. I've seen him before. I've seen him on Facebook, I've seen him on LinkedIn, I've seen him on Twitter. So yeah, your backgrounds you can change, but your main photo I always try to keep consistent. It's all about branding. So your colours, your logos, so even if you're an organisation, if you've got a logo for your organisation, keep it consistent across all platforms, and that way people will remember that brand as they go along. So branding is very, very important. We're talking about content before, but also have variety of content. It's important to have, to maybe, like I said, maybe write your own stuff, but also showcase some other stuff. Talk about other people, like you said, your friend from the States who came on
Yep.
and put on some content. It's good to have that sort of, maybe talk to different people, say, hey, would you like to write a blog for my site? I'd love to do that, because that way they get exposure and you get someone different writing on your site that gives you some route. So they say, hey, look, this guy's site, he's got some new people writing for you. So have some variety of content. Try to change it around a bit, because people just need to see that sort of change happening on your platform, and they will keep on coming back, because I know you're going to give them some new content and it's going to be a different variety.
So just on that,
Yeah.
do you have a ratio? Like, is it like more like 2 of your own versus 1 of someone else that you're sharing?
Not really. I just change it up. I've got a ratio around before about, we talk about the 70-30 rule, which is about 70% of what you do should be about value adding and 30 should be about promotion. So whatever you do on the social media platforms, and we'll come about later, it's about, so 70% should be about your thinking, a new thought piece, a value add piece, and 30% be, I've got a new book, click here to access it. Or I've got a new session coming up in Melbourne, here's some details. What a lot of people do is they'll write a LinkedIn post, talk about the state of L&D, and at the bottom will say, to hear more about this, come to my session, click here. So you can do it that way too. But eventually, and there's certain people that you'll get a gist and you'll find that they probably do more promotion than value add. And slowly, I sort of deviate away from those people, because I don't just want to hear a sell, I want to get some value add out of them.
The other thing I think about that, Con, is that you can value add to other people's things.
Correct.
So thought leadership has always been very much about, I hear something, and then I say, isn't this interesting? And here's my take, here's my, and so you add extra value. And I think that's one of the nice things about the network side of things, is that you can build that information as it goes, and you can get a real conversation, a much more rounded view is what I find. So I tend to comment on a number of different things, but trying to add something rather than just say, great article. And that's nice, but it doesn't matter. Great article, because I looked at this, and this, or here's something, and it could be from your own experience, which is part valuable, but it's also added value.
And that's the art of curation, where you're curating, where you're looking at something you want to share with other people. I try to do it. Sometimes we don't do it. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. But you might say, I really like this article, or I like this blog because it told me about X or Y, or I found it very interesting because it uncovered some things I didn't know about. So try to add some value to your tweets by, when you're sharing some people's stuff, talk about why you found this valuable. Talk about how it helped you. And then others say, oh, that's something I'm looking for too. Sometimes I do just retweet because I think it's self-explanatory, but sometimes I try to add some value and say, I found this interesting because of X or Y. So it's important to do that. Engaging is important too. The way I engage is via the hashtagging. Hashtagging is very, very powerful. And hashtagging is where, the word is the hashtag. So when I send a tweet out, I'll try to add a hashtag that one probably identifies me, and the one I use a lot that identifies me is we are L&D. So it's hashtag we are L&D. That's when I use hashtags for a couple of ways. One, that I want people to take note of it because it's about L&D in general. And the other reason I hashtag is when I want to go back and search some of my tweets that I found really good and valuable, yes, I can like them. I'd also do a search for them by the hashtag, and I can actually find them by the hashtag. Because if I put a unique label on them, a unique hashtag, I can go back and recover them a lot easier. So I do it that way. So hashtagging is very powerful to target certain industries. So the man was Paul was saying to me, he's in Excel training. So for you, Paul, you write something on Twitter, I'll be putting hashtag Excel, hashtag training. So that way people know that's your brand and that you're in Excel training. Or hashtag spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheet, same thing. So whatever you tweet or whatever you're putting out there, add that little hashtag. People out there, there's organisations out there that monitor hashtags. There's people out there that monitor the hashtags that come through. I find when I started using the hashtag VR or hashtag AI as part of what's coming up new in L&D, the new trends, I got 5 or 6 new followers that were in the VR industry out of the blue because they monitored that hashtag. They weren't following me, they were following the hashtag, so they started following me because of that hashtag usage.
Con, can I just ask, with the number of hashtags you have in a tweet, because you hear sometimes, some people say you shouldn't use more than one. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Because I noticed you just said hashtag. So.
Yeah, I try to use probably more than one. Look, you've got 140 characters to play with, so it depends on the message you want to get. I don't like abbreviating my words too much. So, for example, instead of your, people put YR.
Yeah.
I like to have my words fully outlined. But having said that, and one thing I said to people about Twitter is about mastering the art of creative writing. It really is. You got to think about how can you want to say something in a brief, succinct manner, but also get the message across. So I try to use more than one, but not more than 3. Because it depends who I want to target and who I want to access, or who I want to pinpoint. Sometimes some hashtags are just VR, so there's only 2-3 characters there, so you're not using too many. Yeah. Some are longer, so I try to be creative about what I want to do. So I use, like I said, we are L&D, I use a lot. I used to use, when I was very critical of certain people, I'd say head in the sand. So I use hashtag head in the sand, trying to be critical of some people that weren't probably thinking broadly. What else have I used quite a bit? Today's hashtag, for those people who are following us, today's hashtag is ILPOLC.
Okay.
Hello, Andrew. How are you, mate?
Apologies, everyone.
That's okay, mate.
Work done in the winter.
I know, it's a bummer, isn't it?
So if you're on your Twitter account now, go ahead and use the hashtag.
Yeah, so ILC. So, look, it comes down to when you go to conferences, but it's very important. I find it very important when you go to conferences or a discussion group to identify a hashtag, because that way people like to tap into that. The UK conference I was following 2 weeks ago was the Alert Technologies 17 UK. They do it very well. They actually have a whole squad of people identified to tweet live sessions. But they all got one thing in common. They all have to use that hashtag. So that way when you want to follow the feed and follow who's saying what, you go. And with hashtagging, of course, you've got things like Storify, which is an online web application which you can actually create a story of the hashtag. So, for example, if you wanted to see what that conference was all about, you go on Storify, create a new story, pinpoint the hashtag you want to pinpoint, click on create, and it just gives you all the tweets that came out of that particular conference that had utilised. So the important part is to utilise the right hashtag for the event. Once people do that, then you can actually get a sense of what was happening.
All of this is being done, though, in order to figure out what is your strategy as far as why you're doing this.
Exactly.
Are you building profile, building
Correct.
network, learning what is the process, and are you adding the value?
Exactly. When you're tweeting from a conference, the people that do it, you're adding value back to the community.
Yeah.
They follow you. I mean, people love that. I mean, I stay up till midnight following the UK conference because I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about being succinct as well. Twitter, of course, has got that. One of the ones platforms that I've been using for a number of years now, because I like its succinctness and I like to write things, is a thing called Byte Stories, BYT stories.com, and you've got like 1,500 characters that you can write a story. And the guy was apologizing to me. He said, "Sorry, we have to limit the number of things." I said, "No, I love the limitation because you get to write a story, but you have to really hone it and get it really well done." And I've got maybe a couple of dozen up there, and 8,000 or 9,000 views, and this is just little stories about whatever it is you want to write out. And so it's not work related. It's for me, it's an interest thing. But those kind of platforms draw people to you in different ways.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. So hashtagging is a very powerful. We'll see. It's a very powerful tool and a very powerful medium. One, to target, and two, to be able to find and discover information. So engaging, we said it was important. Oops. What's the next one? Oh yeah, there's a 70-20, the 70-30 rule. 70% should be about value adding, 30 should be about promotional. So whether you're selling, you're advocating, or whatever you're doing, push them. But 70% of your platform interactions should be about value adding. Something you've written, something you've saw, something you've read, something you enjoyed. That's 70-30 rule. That's a sort of a general rule, but that's where people will start, getting some traction out of their platform and social media interactions. Of course, you should do your analytics. I mean, Google does analytics. Twitter does some good analytics. Google does analytics. There's a lot of tools out there that do some analytics for you. It's always good to monitor the type of engagement rate, the type of impact you have in the impressions that Twitter analytics gives you. More just to see which of your tweets have been successful, which of the hashtags are hitting the mark, which of your hashtags maybe are not. Just adjusting your strategy there, finding about the kind of people that are following you, their location. And Twitter analytics is really good. It gives you even what their interests are and so forth. So it's a really good tool to use in that respect. And if you're going to be a guru, try to have your finger on the pulse. Try to keep up with what's happening in your industry, in your area. But keeping up, you're going to be able to share and find out people who are also sharing and be able to share some of the stuff they're doing too. So having your finger on the pulse, which is something I try to do, especially in my area, is important if you want to establish yourself as that guru in the industry, or that person that people can regard and trust. And like anything, you should always review and update your strategy. At least I would suggest at least once a year. Have a look and think what you're doing. Look at your analytics, see what you got out of it, review it. Look at the platforms you're on, see which platforms are working for you more than others. Maybe Google Plus is the way to go for some people. You might be surprised, maybe not. You just continue to review and update like you're doing everything else, and consider what works for you. So on LinkedIn, it's your online professional persona. Connect with current and past colleagues, and also share your own and others' content. What I looked up in the sky was, there was a really good quote I saw. It was more related to Twitter, and I'll go into Twitter. Facebook is who you knew, Twitter is who you need to know. It's a very powerful statement.
It's interesting.
Yeah, Facebook is about all the people you knew, and Twitter is about who you need to know.
Just a question around that, about what platforms do you join and all that. I'm very active on LinkedIn and Twitter, not so much on Facebook, more as the company page. But I remember Jen and I were at a conference in Phoenix where we were speaking a few years ago, and there was a fellow there talking about social media strategy, and he said, if you want to connect with me, go to LinkedIn. He said, I'll accept. Connect with me on Facebook. Unless I know you, not going to touch it. So Facebook, no way. LinkedIn, I can see who you are, and I know where it is. And so it was a very interesting thing. So how you connect, and who you accept and who you don't, and all that.
It's interesting you said that, because even with LinkedIn now, it's becoming a bit of one of those areas where you've got to be really careful. And our dear friend Helen's got a strategy. She writes back to everyone and connects and says, if she doesn't know them, she says, interested to see how you know me. What is it about my profile you enjoyed? Did we meet at a conference? And then they respond. I think she was saying they respond within a couple of days with something that is practical, she'll accept the invitation. If not, she just ignores them. So
That's a good strategy.
yeah, it's a good strategy.
Because otherwise you get a lot of
Yeah, well,
lurkers.
we'll get the salespeople, the people want to hitch up with something. So there's one guy, I'll never forget this guy, he just got me really upset. He connected on LinkedIn. I didn't use his strategy. I regret it later on. So I connected me on LinkedIn. I saw his profile. I said, yeah, it looks interesting. So I connected. Maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, it was a phone call. Now, I should have had my phone number on my LinkedIn profile, but it was a phone call. Hi, I want to talk to you about this. I said, didn't we just connect on LinkedIn? He goes, yeah, you accepted my invitation. I said, you're selling something. Yeah, I go, I didn't connect for sales. I connected for interactions and professional networking. Oh, yeah. I said, no. Okay, look, whoever taught you your LinkedIn strategy has misled you. I hanged up. I disconnected from him straight away. I said to him, yeah, sorry, mate, I didn't connect for that purpose. Now, if you are in that industry, you want to connect for that purpose, then be open about it.
Yeah.
But don't just connect with
And
me.
if you accept something from somebody who's a social media marketing strategist,
Exactly.
you're probably going to get a phone call. At least.
Exactly. Or something like that. Exactly
But
right.
it can be hard with Twitter too. Like I know this with people that follow me because I've always I started off following people that followed me.
Yeah.
But I don't do that anymore because I'm finding a lot of them are just those ones where it says I can get you 5,000 followers, and you've got to be really careful because they don't add any value at all to my Twitter feed.
You know what I do with those? I block all those.
Yeah.
I just block them straight away.
Yeah. Yeah, just because
Also-
you have 5,000 friends doesn't mean you have 5,000
I've got a
friends.
couple.
Exactly,
I've got a couple of rules with Twitter, and again, look, apply. You can use it whatever you want. People like that who got say I want to give you followers, I block. People who are an egg, I block. Unfortunately, sorry guys, if you're an egg and you follow me, if you haven't got a profile, I will block you. I don't know, like people have just got a name and haven't got some details around what they do, I'll block. People who I can't read what they're saying in their profile, unfortunately, which means they're going to be they're tweeting about in a lot of foreign language. So I look at their tweets and see a lot of it's in a foreign language. I'm not going to get any value out of that unless you use translate all the time. So I block. So that's some of the strategies that I use. I'm not saying they're great.
Why are you blocking them? Why not just unfollow?
I don't want them to be associated with me because when someone comes into my profile, they will see who's my followers, and they will see who I'm associated with.
They'll send you pictures and...
Yeah. When I was a little kid, my parents always told me about.
Oh boy.
When I was a small kid, my parents said about, tell me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you are. The old saying. If I don't want to be associated with those people who I don't know what they're about. So I just block them.
You ever find that it's needed, and I don't know if anybody else has had any experience, but we have to need to go through and to clean up your database?
You should always, like I said, look, you should always be reviewing who you are. There's certain tools you can use out there with people who follow you, or then they unfollow you. So they follow you, so you can follow them, and then they unfollow you. So there's an unfollow me.
Oh, right, okay.
You can use a lot of Then so I just go look at that and say, okay, who's unfollowed me? Sometimes, look, certain major personalities, when I say personalities, people that I like and I really enjoy their tweet, they can't follow everyone, so I still will follow them even though they're not following me. So I understand those people that they've got thousands of followers. But I really still enjoy what they tweet. I really enjoy what they tweet, and I like it. I don't expect them to follow me because I'm a nobody. But some those that do follow me, and that I then follow back, who then decide to unfollow me for whatever reason. I think, well, okay, if you're not enjoying what I'm saying, then
Is there a limit to the number of followers you can have? I saw something from Bernard Salt the other day.
yeah.
That he said, I've hit a limit now and I need to say, if you're not following me, if you're not reading the stuff I'm doing, could you please drop off? And
Is there a limit on that?
15,000 or something like that.
No, maybe on LinkedIn it might be.
It was, I think it was.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn there maybe, not on Twitter.
And
no.
so it was an interesting thing about, at what point do you accept or not accept, and then what's the drawback of that?
So what I like about Twitter is when you get to a certain number of followers, it doesn't say that full number, it says 31.5k.
Yeah.
For wow, one day I'll be there. It doesn't say 31,500, it says 31.2k.
Yeah.
That's a good one, that one. That's a good one. Anyway,
What
so
else have you got for us?
So Twitter. So like I said, decide what your profile is, make it look professional. So what you can see with mine, what I did is put my picture, and also I was convening a conference, so I decided to use a conference photo of me there, so people see that I'm a presenter, I'm a speaker, that's my brand, that's who I am. So I decided to use that as part of my brand. Share content, thoughts and comments, and share something for your personality. I like Bill's one too. I put that because I like the way Bill's more He's got Bill is casual. He's on the seat there, and it's very friendly and welcoming profile. So I think it's important to have a good profile because people will be drawn to your profile based on what you've got up there. And Bill, did you use a particular strategy for your profile?
Yeah, I mean, we had the shots taken, and I picked the thing. This is the way I like to project myself.
That's
I
right.
sit in an easy fashion, and without going too much into what I do, it's more about making people feel who I am.
Exactly right. So as a general rule, if you're happy to say it in a business meeting, it's fine for Twitter. There's a famous case with an SBS reporter who tweeted about the Anzacs. So do you recall that one? Lost his career, the poor guy. He was expressing a view, but I use that as a case in saying to people that you're only one tweet away from losing your job. So it's about being mindful about what you're going to say on Twitter sometimes and being careful because unfortunately that gentleman, he was just trying to express an opinion, but obviously it was misconstrued and the organisation decided to terminate his...
Don't tweet in the pub.
Exactly right. Yeah, look, and there's a lot of, even with political tweets, depends how you want to go about it. I've done one or two, I'll probably regret them now, but anyway, just depends how you want to go about them. Depends, who you are, how you want to be, what you want to portray. There's a lot of people out there who don't care about their brand or profile, so they'll just say anything. And depends who you are and what you stand for, and how you want to be considered going forward.
But then some people have a personal profile and some people have a professional profile. Do you find that works or it confuses things? Or
My kids always say, my kids go, Dad, you got to get a personal one and a business one. I said, I can't handle one, I can do two. Look, there is people who do that. For me, I have one principle, I'm true to myself, so I'd rather be who I am in a lot of ways I am who I am. So I'll tweet about sport, I'll tweet about some politics, I'll tweet about the NDIS because I've got a disabled child, I'll tweet about things like that. So it's about me. If you want to do that, there's nothing wrong with having a different profile. If you can manage that, good luck to you. It's probably a strategy you can use. I don't do it.
well, some people use Facebook for a personal sort of feed, family or personal things, and some people use Twitter and LinkedIn for more professional
Although
things.
LinkedIn, you see a lot of people on LinkedIn saying, what are you posting this for? This is a Facebook post. What are you putting on LinkedIn for? So you get a lot of people getting... LinkedIn's becoming a bit of a Facebook. So, again, it's just you got to balance that out. But you're right.
Yeah.
If you want to keep it simple, it's Facebook's for family and LinkedIn's professional.
Con, we're probably only got about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, I'll just go through it
what else have
quickly.
you got for us?
So, get noticed the 16 steps. Everyone has something to say. Find your thing and be good at it. Share other people's content. It's always good to share other people's content because they'll love you back,
Not your competitors.
but not your competitors. That's it. Good point. So, a retweet, you see there, a retweet is where you actually take something to the training journal, so I just retweeted that because it's very self-explanatory. And a quoted tweet is where someone has said something and I add some value. So what did I say there? Yes, the Aussie project won, That's about our project in the UK won an award. I just made sure that the appropriate hashtag was used to convey that message further, more wider.
Yeah.
So a retweet and a quoted tweet. Quoted tweet, remember guys, where we talked about adding some value back to your network. So we can actually say, I enjoyed this because, or this is what I think. And a retweet just sharing some content, which like I said, pretty self-explanatory. Okay, share other people's content. So this is where we're having a bit of a conversation. So Laura said she was talking about Modern Workplace Law, which is Jane Haas' new online magazine that Helen wrote an article about. I said, yes, we accept social learning is new. Why can't we accept the word is true? So we just had a bit of a conversation there. So it gives you a bit of a thread about how a conversation can continue on via Twitter. But it's about sharing other people's content and just discussing it. Hashtags. Don't pepper your posts with hashtags. Good point. Sorry, you're not.
Oh, Matthew.
Yeah. But sometimes the right sounding hashtag is the right one. So like today we've got the ILP, ALC, Auslearn. There's a site called Right Tag. You can check your hashtag to see if others are using it, to see how wide it's been used. With hashtagging, always try, no one owns a hashtag. Try to be unique, because the more unique you are, then it's going to be easier for people to find it. But also when you go to do a Storify or search for it later on, it's going to be easier for you to find the right tweets that are coming out of that.
I would highly recommend that as well. I was looking at a hashtag for something, a new thread I wanted to start the other day. So I thought I better just check and see what's out there. And what I was thinking about using, I would not want to be a part of that stream, right? So it's that kind of thing. So you need to look at that.
So we
Well-
go to righttag.com.
Yeah, no, just right tag. Just go to right tag. Just Google right tag. You go there. You put the potential tag, the hashtag you want to use. It will tell you who's using it, if it's being used.
Yeah.
I was tweeting once where we had a challenge to do social media tips, 7 tips for 7 days. I was using hashtag 7 tips 7 days, and a bodybuilder was using the same hashtag. So my tweets about social media was getting mixed up with bodybuilding tips. So because you were doing 7 days, 7 tips for 7 days. So you know, why not?
Because that's what I wonder about. I've had people follow me. Well, I had exactly that happen. All of a sudden, I started getting followed by bodybuilders and people in the physical fitness industry. And I couldn't work out.
You must have hashtagged something, or someone retweeted something of yours that probably hit them.
Okay.
Yeah, or they put you on a list somewhere and others saw it.
Yeah.
Or they just like the look of your post.
So, play your hashtags right. Images, this is important. Images. Twitter doesn't count images as part of its 140 characters, so go for your life. Images will attract a lot more. As I go through my feed, I know it just mean, subconsciously, if there's an image, I sort of take an extra couple of seconds to have a look at that. So, images on Twitter feeds and on LinkedIn are very, very important. And there's some good stats here that people retain 65% of the information 3 days later. Tweets with images receive 150% more retweets than those without images. So images, even if it's just a picture of a brochure or a picture of a site or even a picture of a Skype or with your message on it, people will just stop a little longer to have a look at it.
Just don't use a Getty image.
Try to use your own images, that's right, exactly right. But so if you're in an organisation, tweet your brand, your brochures and all those, you just tweet those things and people start associating and seeing that brand out there. Why bother liking? Create a list of things you want to go back to, show public support for something, because when you like something, it says George, Mary, Simon and kind of like you have liked this, maybe you also like it too. So it gives you a little notification about people that have liked some tweets of yours. So it's good to sort of share the love around and get the attention of an influencer. So join the right groups on LinkedIn and the right debates on Twitter. So hashtagging, there's a lot of Twitter chats that happen too. They use a hashtag. So find some Twitter chats if you're interested in. There's one that happens on a Friday morning at lunchtime, which is called Learn Chat. We're very, very active. A couple of us here are on it. Very active on a Friday, 12:30 p.m. Just hashtag LARN chat, Learn Chat, LRN. Is it LRN chat? Yeah. But 12:30 on Friday. I think it is here with a. It's fine. It comes out of the States, but it's a really good. And you get a couple of good movers and shakers on that one, like Clark Quinn, Jane Bozart, Dave Kelly, all the good guys to follow around the States around learning. And just monitor the chat. Just go and have a look there, or even just storify it and just do a search, a Google search, and you'll see the kind of the information they're sharing. It's a really good chat. But there's also Chat to Learn, which is a UK one. We used to have OzLearn, but that's sort of gone quiet for a while. That's about there. Any other chats, Andrew, you know about? Any other chats around, Twitter chats?
PKM chat.
PKM chat, yes, which is on our morning, 6:30 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, too early for me.
Too early for me too. That's a PKM chat. Yeah, it's a good chat. So there's some good chats, and the chats work on the hashtag. So you know the hashtag, you can follow it via the hashtag, and they're really good chats. And again, you'll find some people there you might want to follow. So it's really good to see those chats. Oh, this person tweets some good stuff. Follow them. See what they're doing. Making posts. So there's a Hootsuite and TweetDeck. I don't use any of those. I use TweetDeck. That's my go-to tool. I don't use Hootsuite, but I use Buffer. I do all my posting via Buffer. So I will schedule my posts that I want to get out on a regular basis by Buffer. Then I do some in the ones that I do what I call impulse tweeting. Buffer and Google Alerts. But Anders Pink, if you haven't heard of Anders Pink, I've been pushing it a lot. I think it's one of the best tools I've seen. It's a curation tool, Anders Pink. Go up and sign up, anderspink.com, or just do Anders Pink. You'll find it. It's a really good curation tool. So it will, based on what your needs are and what sort of parameters you give it, domains, Twitter handles, search terms, you've got numerous ways of customizing it. You'll get the content you want delivered to you like that. So it'll take blog, it'll take Twitter feeds, it'll take everything. Really good. Buffer and TweetDeck is my go-to tool. What do you use? Andrew, you use TweetDeck or?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Michael, what do you use?
Just use the Twitter app.
Use your Twitter app. I use TweetDeck at home. Anyone else use TweetDeck? No? Just TweetDeck is good for me because I can actually get all my little columns together. So when I'm following a conference, I've got a conference, the hashtag for the one column, then I've got the people that I follow, then my list. So TweetDeck is really good on the web browser, not on my phone, but on my web browser. It's really good. Sorry, I'm going. Yeah. So follow Wonk for making the most of your audience. So follow Wonk is another one you can look at. Twitonomy is to find your top influencers, and Twitter Analytics, which we talked about before, which people should be using. I'll try to get these the deck out. We've got a list of the people in the emails. Yeah, I'll get it to Bill, and we'll try to get the slide deck out to you.
What we've done is, as long as you've ticked the attendance sheet, we'll make sure that you get a copy of this stuff in PDF format.
Happy for you to take pictures, no problem with that. But if you want to access it later on, no problem.
When we need to suck in, that's all.
Yeah, that's it. Analyze your followers and accounts. Follow Wonk. It's a good one. So where the world your followers, what are the top words your followers use, how influential your followers, how recently are they tweeted, and all that sort of information. So follow Wonk. There's Pseudonomy. Pseudonomy does some nice little graphs for you, which is good. So if you ever want to show the organisation's social media strategy, how successful it's been or not, you can go there and do some nice little graphs and do some analysis and see what's happening and show them, if you're the social media person for your organisation, how well you're doing, where the areas you should be focusing on. The good thing about these tools is this one actually tell you what days of the week and hours of the day you prefer to post. Or Buffer, for me, tells me what days of the week and hours of the week are the best times to post based on my audience analysis. So it does analysis and finds my audiences in the UK and the USA. Or telling me, Con, your post is most effective between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. Wow. So it actually tells you when's your best time to post, which is really handy to know sometimes. Again, I sometimes override that, but when I want to hit that market in the US and UK, I will follow that schedule they've provided. Yeah, Analytics, Twitter, you can access that and get access to that. All right, a few bonus tips. Use lists. Remember we talked before about lists in Twitter to streamline your Twitter feed. So instead of having to look at your whole Twitter feed in the morning, use your lists. Find some people to put in your list. Just access those people on a regular basis. For me, that's the go-to people. It could be my L&D people, it could be HR gurus, it could be sports fanatics, whatever the case may be. I have different lists for different needs. Okay, Bill, you talked about unfollow Twitter users who don't tweet enough. So if you find people don't give you enough value or you don't get much out of them, yep, there's nothing wrong with unfollowing someone. What you can do is, what I've done is, I unfollow them, but I put them on the list, so that way I can still monitor them, but I don't have to follow them on my feed, so I can still monitor their tweets.
Like a private eye or something.
Yeah, exactly right, a prying eye.
Monitor.
If you have something important to say, you pin it to the top of your feed, so with Twitter you're able to pin your one you want to say. So I found when I pinned a Pulse blog I wrote, when people went to my feed, I got that Pulse on LinkedIn, got more shares and more profile views. So I was really surprised at that. So that's a good way of seeing people to a different platform where you want them to go. Cultivate and nurture your personal learning network. Now, I'll try to see if there's a really good diagram. I think I brought it along with me. I didn't. Maybe not. Oh, here it is. A guy called Howard Reingold did a thing called How to Cultivate and Personal Network. But it's all about exploring, searching, following, fine-tuning. But the most important thing is about continuing to nurture by inquiring and engaging with them. So share with them, but also when they're sharing, respond to them. Say, great share, Don. Thanks for this. And the people that are in this room that I know, they all do this very well. And that's one thing when you do that well, you'll get that response back from other people. Great share. Thanks for sharing this. I really enjoyed it. Bang. Next time, they'll remember you. Your profile goes up. So nurturing your network is all about interacting, connecting, sharing, but also engaging with it too, in as much ways as you can. So, do thank people on that content. Don't automate thanks. The ones I hate the most is when I follow someone new, automatically get a reply that says, thanks for following, have a great day. This has been sent out by commune.it. Great. Yeah, make it a bit more genuine than that. So when people follow me, I don't send an automatic response. I just every now and again will put a message saying, thanks for my new followers, hope you enjoy the ride. So I just put a general tweet out there every now and again. Ask questions, not arguments. I have one rule, which is question respectfully. Everything do respectfully. Challenge, analyse, discuss, but do it respectfully. So really, thanks for that. I understand what you're saying. This is my perspective, or this is what I think. Respond to questions people ask. Do that, but don't react to criticism. Don't try to get into an ongoing discussion on Twitter. Once it goes more, from my approach and my rule is, once it goes more than a second tweet, I'll bail out. I'll say, thank you very much, I'm taking this conversation offline, or I'm no longer interacting. I'll actually tell them, I'm no longer interacting in this conversation, thank you very much. So if it goes more than 2 interactions, I'll just get out of that. Because it's about your profile, it's about your brand on there, and people will see that you are having a discussion, an argument, a conversation with someone. They'll get sick of it too. So I just bail out of it. Use images, don't use bad images. Talk about yourself and around the individual, don't be inappropriate. Tweet at events using the right hashtags. For me, tweeting at events is one of the best things that I can do. Sharing what I'm seeing and learning with my friends and colleagues, whether they be local, overseas, is one way I add value back to my network. And I think others, and I value when others do that back for me. So when others are going to events and they're sharing, I love it, and I can actually watch them, what they're learning, what they're seeing, what they're digesting. And I go back to them and say, can you tell me more about that? So they might come back to me after the session and say, yeah, well, what they said was this, or here's a document they referred to, Con, or something like that. And don't only tweet about the free stuff and drinks, or what Britney Spears is having for breakfast, or what you're doing. I mean, it's okay to do it every now and again, but just don't do that. Add more value to it.
This to-don't list is almost like the list that the leader of the free world uses.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
It's
That's
really
right,
interesting to see that.
Yeah, so that's some of the stuff. So hopefully, any questions? Just
Con, we've gone for an hour, and it seems like only a few minutes, quite frankly, because there's been a lot of really good stuff here. We will have some questions now, and we're just going to capture that just to have a little bit of a discussion. And then I want to have just a few minutes of your time, and then we got some food and wine to drink and things like that. So it's very informal. Sandy.
My disclaimer at the front of this is I'm quite a Twitter novice. Why would I put @LearnCoach in a tweet? Is that so you get it bang in your face, or what?
simple. Yes, I get it bang in my face. So basically, you want to highlight something to me, you say @LearnCoach, have a look at this, mate.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I might miss it in my feed.
Okay.
The other way
That's
is
about notifying you.
if you were tweeting now and saying listening to @LearnCoach and @Bill Jarrard at the IOP
At hashtag IOP.
Yeah.
At hashtag IOP.
And what that's doing is it's just filling that in, and what we do is we then see it, retweet it, put it back out to other people, and say thanks and all that kind of stuff.
Or what I use too sometimes is I will tweet something, I'll say ping Sandy Gibbon. So ping meaning, look, I think you should look at this. So
As in you
I'll
type in PING.
P-I-N-G and then the hashtag, yeah. You don't have to, I do it because I just like to sort of highlight it. You don't have to, you just put the handle, it'll still get there, but I just say ping meaning I think you especially need to have a look at this.
Yeah, and that's interesting like that. I just had something from that Peter that did it. I have an event coming up in about a week and a half for another network that I run. And Peter wanted somebody else to know about it. So at me, at him, introductions, guys coming along, and it's that way of connecting people together. So,
Just depends, yeah. So,
other questions?
How do you feel about saturating your Twitter feed over 24 hours?
saturating your way.
Like how many times do you tweet a day?
Look, I don't live by this rule, but in general, you probably would, I'd be tweeting 4 or 5 times a day. I think LinkedIn, I think it should be maybe 1 or 2 a day, not more than 1 or 2 a day on LinkedIn. 1 or 2 a day. Too much would be 20, 30 tweets would be too much. Andrew, what do you think? You're on Twitter all the bit.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I think the main thing for me is, what's the habit that you create? I've probably lost my habit a bit at the moment. But yeah, so it probably depends. You might be attending an event where you send 5 or 6 tweets in an hour, but they're really valuable because it's that living conversation that you're sharing. And I think people would see that as appropriate.
Michael, what about you? You're pretty active.
Well, I think it's always been quality over quantity.
Yep.
And I think exactly what you're saying, there's certain times where it's appropriate to have string a few together in a day or at a conference, something like that.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
conference,
you're actually just spamming people and people get sick of you and won't want to follow you. Won't
Yeah.
want to track you.
Yeah, I've had that a number of times with the things, and suddenly get 15 or 20 things right in a row, and you go, sorry.
And it's usually self-promotional. If people are tweeting a lot, it's usually self-promotional.
Yeah.
So what I do, like Michael said there with the conference, I might say to people, "Hi guys, I'm at a conference today. Please excuse the flurry of text that will come through." So I'll give a warning to people. So there might be more than 20. It might be more. It might be more than 5 or 10. But at least I've given a warning somewhere online saying, "I'm at a conference today. I'll be tweeting. Please excuse the flurry of tweets that are going to come through." So at least you're doing that courtesy thing. But like Michael said, just a matter of just promotion can be too much. Yeah.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on reposting your own content?
What's my thoughts on reposting? I love it. I love it. I think I try to repost it. I'll put it out, and then maybe a couple of days later, if I think it's not getting the attention it needs, and what I mean by that is I've not seen enough people retweet it or like it or something. I'm thinking it's important enough. I'll repost it. I'll retweet it with a quote and say, in case you missed it, here it is again, or something like that. But I think it's a great way of reporting back some content in people's face that maybe they missed because they weren't watching you. So when you repost it, don't repost at the same time you posted the first one. Try a different time and do it that way.
Or maybe even update it sometimes.
Yeah, even update it.
Sometimes use it back and say,
I think there's nothing
just
wrong with it.
reposting this because of such and such
Yeah.
or whatever. That's what I find is
But in a nutshell, I think there's nothing wrong with it. I think
Yeah.
it's a good strategy to use.
because people, it slides through. People
Yeah.
don't see it. I think
There's so much noise out there.
Yeah.
When you say tweeted events using the right hashtags, are you meaning like a lot of events will have an official hashtag?
Yes.
Yeah.
So obviously use that. But what about if you're at other things where you,
Great hashtag.
yeah, so
Great one yourself.
sometimes you get a few different hashtags if people are there, but that doesn't really matter, I suppose.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, I always, if I go to an event, I might say to the people that are there, the organisers, while we're having drinks, say, "You've got a hashtag today?" "Oh, no, we haven't thought of it." So, well, maybe we should create one. I'd like to create one. "Are you okay to create one?" So, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Create it.
And if you're in an L&D space and you're with a client or a public program, things like that, often I will sit back and say, guys, we're going to do some things. If you feel like you want to tweet some of the stuff that's going on, here's a hashtag we can use today, and it draws it back. And so you're creating that thing. And you need to give that permission sometimes, and I think encourage that process, certainly.
Well, I think these days, training events, anyone who runs training events, or with respect to anyone who does it, who says, please put your phones away, I think is wrong.
Yeah.
It's more about please use your phones as much as you want, because the more they use it, the more exposure for the events.
Yeah, and it's interesting how you can do that. I mean,
Yeah.
as an example, I have in the lecturing that I do for my MBA students, I get them to do a lot of different activities. And one night they were doing a visualization activity, and I said, guys, anybody problem if I periscope this a little bit? So then I put a little tweet out and went through and then just periscoped it and said, basically, here they are, interactive, doing the visualization, doing the mind maps, whatever it happened to be. And they were fine with that. Obviously you're asking permission before you take people's pictures, but it was that kind of thing. So thinking strategically about what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, I think is part of that process. Guys, we've been going for over an hour now, which again is amazing because these things usually go much quicker than that. Thank you very much. Can we just say thanks to Con Sotidis? And if we have just 3 or 4 more minutes, and then we'll have a break. Is that okay? Is that okay? Good. Did you notice how I did that? Asked you if it was okay, as if you actually have any say at all in what I'm going to actually do. It's my tilted democracy. Jen?